Hello everybody. Welcome once again to the Spanish Breakfast Show live on YouTube Spain. I'm wearing the sweatshirt today. So I'm Skatz, and every week I'm finding the answers to lots of your questions about moving to Spain with the help of experts and expats with lots of experience. And of course, you can ask questions right now in the chat box over there or down there, depending on what device you're watching on. Or if you're not watching live, you can comment in the comments below. And either way, we'll get you some answers. My lovely wife Liz is looking in and will be on the chat under the name U2 Yoga this morning. So if I miss any questions, she might answer them or pass them on to me. And give her a wave, everyone. Hello, Liz. Good morning. And today we are talking about buying a house in Spain. And I'm very happy to be welcoming back a man who I spoke to 2 weeks ago, who is building his own house down in Almeria after moving there many years ago. He's gone through this buying a house many times. He's also written a lot of great advice for people moving to Spain, and he has a website and a Facebook group. So let's see what pearls of wisdom we can glean today. So everybody say hello to David Wright. Good morning, David.
Morning. Hi. Thanks for having me on the show again.
You're welcome. It's great to see you again. Thanks for your time and knowledge once again.
No problem.
So just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and you can also plug your website as well. I'll put the picture up for that.
Yeah, well, just 18 years in Spain now, and buying and selling properties. I've got a few experiences. I've bought 7 properties and land, and bought and sold them over the last 18 years. And lately building my own house here, a 4-bedroom house, which is almost finished now. So yeah, I've got some pretty good tips and advice I can give people that could save you a lot of time, money and stress.
Excellent. I'm just going to put up this for the moment so everybody can see it. And that's your livinginspainbooks.com as well. You've got some books out.
Yeah, a couple of books on Amazon and Kindle. There's some devices you can download the books for free, depending on what device you've got. And we've got a blog, Expats blog, and YouTube channel, all the usual things, giving information, tips and advice on living and working in Spain, really.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we get straight on to some questions. And hello, everybody on the chat. By all means, give us a wave. We've got some comments already. Good morning, everybody. Yes, Liz says good morning. And so what's, if you were moving to Spain right now then, David, what would, and you were thinking of buying a house, knowing what you know now, what would you do first?
The first thing I would say, is rent first. And the reason I say that is because I wanted to buy it when I first came here. I had the money to buy an apartment to begin with, and I was told by my bank manager, who I got friendly with at the time, to rent first, because you never know what it's like until you've lived there. So I rented for a few months, and a few months became 10 months, and I realised that although I loved that area, I didn't want to live in that particular area. I ended up moving about 10 minutes down the road to another place, because I got to learn that, you know, the deliveries for the hotel behind me at 6 o'clock in the morning were not known when I was walking around the streets, but living there you soon realise that. And the kids coming out of school up the road, double parking outside, the parents picking them up, so things like that. So I moved just a little bit down the road, and I was glad that I rented first. It wasn't money wasted, as some people say. It was money well spent, and I lived in the new place I rode for about 6 years before I moved on from there. So renting is probably the best thing.
Brilliant. Apologies everybody for the slight interruptions in sound. There may be freezing. Something is happening with the internet somewhere between here and Spain, but don't worry, we're always coming back to you. Let's see now. Next question. What's the biggest mistake that house hunters make?
The biggest mistake, I think, is people are sort of on holiday mode when they come and they buy here, and they're very keen. I mean, if you're looking at property, you've probably got things ready to buy, and you're really keen to buy a property here and get things moving. And people rushing it, they buy it doing the proper checks, and without finding out if the property is what they say it is, you know, and they can make mistakes. And the estate agents are always willing to push you on and hurry you on with the purchase price. Obviously, they're getting their commission, and the owners are keen to sell. And the holiday atmosphere here, you want to buy as quickly as possible, but you really want to consider a few things here before you actually put that deposit down and do some of your own checks, which is quite simple to do.
Yeah.
If you know where to do these checks.
You're frozen again. Here we go. Are you still there?
Still here, yeah.
Ah, yeah, good. You froze just at the end of that. Anyway, so back to the big questions. I think that a lot of people don't realise is that there are costs on top of the purchase cost when you buy a house. You'll expect to pay something afterwards as well, won't you?
Yeah, well, actually, after I bought my apartment here, I mean, people say that we've seen officially, I think it's 7 to 10%, the taxes and stuff like that. But you've got to allow around 15% of the purchase price. So, for example, if you're buying a property for 100 grand, put another 15,000 on top of that for all the expenses. For example, the notary, there's estate agents, solicitors' fees. There's loads of registration documents that need to be paid for, and I bought a property here several years ago for 200,000, and it was all being dealt with through a solicitor, and we were told to expect the 10%. But when the bank takes out 22,000, and it was in the end from my account, it's a bit of a shock. We were ready for it, but it still hurts a bit. 22,000, but that includes notary fees, taxes, registration, estate, a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot different to the UK, and to be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Which part of how much of that is the sort of estate agents' fees? How much do they charge?
Well, I mean, the last couple of properties I've bought, the estate agent fees is normally around about €6,000 is a fixed figure, which is quite a lot, especially for. I mean, when I bought this plot of land here, we actually found the plot of land, but there was a phone number there for the estate agent, so we called the estate agent. He came and had a look, and then called the owner, and we bought by. So the estate agent didn't do anything, but we still had to pay him €6,000 because he was working for the owner of the property. So yeah, it's a basic fee of around €6,000 for the estate agents now. So it's quite a lot different to the UK.
Yeah, and it tends to be a kind of a fixed fee thing rather than a percentage.
Yeah, for the last couple of properties I bought, it was a fixed rate. It can depend on the property price you're buying as well. But the plot of land I bought, I paid 100,000 for the land, just the land, and that's he wanted 6,000 something like that. Then we rounded it up to 6,000. So yeah, you can negotiate with some of these agents as well, and a lot of the things they do here now, the agents are in what they call a net. And that is basically estate agents are in groups of estate agents, and they look for properties, and if they haven't got what they want, they look elsewhere with other agents, and then they share the commission. So you can sometimes negotiate with your agent if they've found it with another agent, to reduce their fees. So you can get a few thousand on one property here. I spoke to an agent and I got him to knock off €1,000 off of his fee, which he did. So yeah, you can negotiate with these people most of the time.
Excellent. Do you know anything about rental properties? I have some questions on that, but they can wait for the estate agent that I'm going to speak to in 2 weeks' time, if not.
Yeah, my experience with rental here is that the biggest thing you need to do is go through an agent. Always go through an agent. Don't do it direct. And I've rented properties out, and officially when I rented my house out here, I was told to do it properly, which I did, and you have to pay a deposit through the local council offices, and you go to the registration and you pay the deposit. So if there's a problem, the council like the intermediary and get deposits back that way. But when the people that were renting my house at the time that I was renting here, they were, after about 4 or 5 months, they wanted to leave, and we were talking about getting the deposit back, and then they just upped and left, and I was quite worried that they'd done something horrible to the playground. Everything was okay. I quickly changed the locks and everything and went to try and get the deposit back, and I had to go through the council to get the deposit back, and it took me almost 2 months to get my deposit back through the council. It was all safe and okay, but it was a problem. The other thing I say quickly is when I rented a place here through an agent, we paid a deposit of 400 and something euros, and you normally pay 1 month up front and 1 month a holding deposit, so it's two months.
Yeah.
And after I'd rented, we got on really well with the old Spanish couple that come in to check every now and again. And I said to the agent, it was an estate agent, we're leaving now and we've cleaned the place. Oh, that's fine, just give us the keys. I said, no, we want you to come around and have a look just to check and make sure everything's okay. We haven't done any damage. No, it's fine. I insisted on him coming because I'd heard these horror stories. He came, he looked, and he said, yeah, it's fine, everything's okay. We left a toaster, a small TV we didn't want, and a microwave. And we said, look, we don't want that. We can't take it with us. It's a gift. Okay, great. We went back into his office a week later to pick up a deposit, and when we got in, he said, the owners had to get cleaners in to clean it because it was dirty, and it came to exactly 420 euros, which was their deposit. And I said, that can't be, you said, I know. So I said, well, what can we do? He said, I'm sorry, but the only thing you can do is you can take it to a solicitor. So I went to a solicitor. He said it'll cost you around 500 euros to start the proceedings. Forget it. So I put it down to experience. So, you've got to be careful with these deposits. What I would say is that, you can sort of go for an agent, do it properly, but you just got to be very, very careful. A lot of people, I've heard it a lot of times here, people have lost their deposits that way. It's something that some Spanish people do here and get away with it, aren't they?
There's one question I had from Casey Della Rumble. That's a great name, Rumble. Who is supposed to pay the agency fee on rental properties? Is there an industry standard or is it discretionary? I've heard of estate agents charging both the buyer and the seller a fee.
Yeah, no. There is some new rules recently. I read up on it a little while ago, the other day actually. There's some new rules and regulations setting the new standards for the estate agents. But the thing is, with all estate agents here, not all estate agents are the same. You have to be very careful. That's why I'd always say go to one that's been brought to you by somebody that you know, and go to the bigger agents. They're normally, the fees aren't any more money. It's normally you get a better rate and a bit more security with them. But the other thing is, when you're buying a property here, like the last couple of properties I've bought, if you say you're going to buy a property, you normally have to make an official deposit. And so, for example, on the land that I bought here, we said we want it, and they said, well, you have to come in and you can't just say you want it and then wait till it goes to the notary. You have to come in and put a deposit down to show that you're interested. And we had to put down a 6,000 euro deposit. On the purchase of the land was 150,000, so we had to put down 6,000 deposit, which is a non-refundable deposit. That means if we decide that we change our mind, we don't, and we pull out the deposit back. But if the owner of the property that we are buying, in this case it was the land, decides that he's had a better offer or he doesn't want to sell it anymore, he has to pay you double your deposit. So he would have to give us back double the money. So obviously the more money you can put down, the harder it is for him to back out of it. It's what most agents do here now. I don't think it was recommended. It's not an official thing, but it's what most people do now. And I've done it on 3 of my last property purchases here. It's quite good because it does protect you. I did one place, I put down 2,000 euros deposit. At the time I didn't have the capital to put down more, but on the land we were buying I put down 6,000, and I thought if he's going to pull out, we really wanted it, so if he's going to pull out, he's going to have to give me 12,000 back and pull out. So it just shows that you're serious, and the money it goes with the agent. And you go in with your agent and his agent, and it's all done officially. You write it all out, you get a contract for it, so it's safe. The deposit is safe, obviously, unless you pull out.
That's good. It does seem to be getting safer, and it's also good, I know, to get your own independent lawyer. I had somebody mentioning that. John Towell says, and he actually works for a law firm. So get your own independent lawyer that isn't working for the estate agent.
Yeah, the estate agents that you're buying through will always recommend a lawyer. Obviously, they're getting commission from it, but I would never go with the estate agent's lawyer. I would go with my estate agent if it was my estate agent, or one that I've recommended. But one bit of advice I want to give people, which I think is very valuable, is when you're looking to buy a property here, whether it's land, an apartment or a house, you can have surveys done and things like that, which can be expensive and be very detailed here, but not really that necessary. The main thing is the property legal? Is it what it is? What it says that they're selling? Like, for example, is it 3 bedrooms? Has it got a wall around it? Is the pool legal and registered and things like that? And the way you can do this is go to your local town hall offices and ask to speak to the planning registry officer. Now, this is a free service that's offered all over Spain. And I only found out about this on my last 3 properties that I bought here in the last 5-10 years. And you go to the office of Spanish, take someone with you because you need to speak Spanish, and you see a planning registry officer, and it got this big old dusty book. You look through, you get a plot number of the property that you're buying, land, property, whatever it is, and every property has a registry number. And if you want to get this number, you get it from your estate agent, from the owner, or it's on the escriture, the deeds of the property. They have to give you this, even if you're not buying it, that the estate agent will give you this number. Go to the planning registry officer and say, look, there's a 3-bedroom property I'm interested in buying. This is the number. Is it correct? And he can look through the book. He can say to you, yes, it is 3 bedrooms. They've got a pool, a garage, or they've got a garage, things like that. And you can see all the information there. If it's legal and registered. One of the properties I was going to buy here actually was a 4-bedroom house, and it had a garage, and I said about the garage, and he said there's no garage on the land registry. So I said, oh, so what's the problem? So he said, well, you can apply for it or you can knock it down, but there is no garage there. So I went back to the estate agents, told them about this, and they said, oh, it's not a problem, we can do it at the notary, we can sign at the notary. I said, but no, it's not that straightforward. They don't always agree. It's an illegal build, the garage. You might have to knock it down or pay for building permission or apply for building permission. So we pulled out property, but any registry officer can tell you so much information, and it's 100% free. So well worth doing.
Excellent. Yes, Liz is just putting something down in the comments there that highlights that as well. Thank you, Liz. Let's see, another question from Casey actually. Can you secure a mortgage as an autonomo, as a self-employed person? And if so, what documents do the bank require, and what level of history do you need to have had with them?
Yeah, I bought a property here years ago when I was self-employed as a carpenter, and I was married before my first wife, and she wasn't working, and I had to show 3 years income, and I was only working here for just over a year, so I didn't have the 3 years income. So my accountant did a projection of what I'd earn, an estimate, and that was accepted. So I think it's a lot different now. It may have changed a lot, but this was some time ago when I did mine. But you can show projected figures, but you really, if you're starting out as autonomo to begin with, it could be difficult.
Yeah.
Because you obviously got no proof of income. But I did a projection, or my accountant did a projection for me based on what I was earning, and that was accepted. Plus, I was putting down quite a big deposit, so that always helps.
Oh, that's good to know, because Liz and I are both going to be on Autonomo when we get there.
There's one other thing I'll say as well about when you're going to get a mortgage here. When I first bought my first property here, it was an apartment, and it was just around 100,000, a small apartment, and my bank manager at the time, who I got to know quite well over the first moved here, he was living in my building, and he said to me, you're going to have a mortgage? I said, no, we're going to pay cash. He said, no, I would recommend you get a mortgage. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, because if you pay cash, we don't care if you lose the property or whatever, it's cash, we've got the money. But he said, if you have a mortgage, we have to do more checks to make sure the property is legal and registered, and to protect our investment. So, and I said, well, I don't really need a mortgage. So he said, well, get a small mortgage over 5 years, which I did. And we paid it off after 5 years without paying any extra fees. So it just helps the bank do a little bit more projects because they've got an investment in property as you have. So that's something he told me, and I think it's quite a good bit of advice.
That's a very, very good bit of advice, yeah. Because we were thinking of buying outright on just a very small property. But yeah, get a very small mortgage.
If you think about it, if the property is illegal or it's not built, they haven't got the proper plans or permission and stuff like that, the bank are going to find that out. You could find that out as well, but by paying for a survey. But if you get the bank, if they're doing a mortgage, the bank will do these checks. They're obviously protecting their investment as well as yours.
Excellent. Let's get another question from the internet now. Oh, this one was funny. I put a request up for people to ask questions of an estate agent or somebody who knows about buying houses, and somebody put up, I'm looking for a finca with minimum 2 bedrooms and land or a large garden up to €700 per month, obviously a rental. Any area, the more isolated the better. And I wasn't actually asking for people to ask an estate agent for a personal recommendation, but is that do you know about any rental properties around by you that are sort of 2 bedrooms or more? Is that a good rental for that, 700 a month?
Yeah, there's lots of rentals, obviously, all over Spain at the moment, and you can go to agents, look them up on the internet, and but you really need to type it in a Spanish website, because otherwise you're going to come up with all the English agents, and they're sometimes limited. But if you can do it in Spanish, search for Spanish websites where the Spanish rent their properties from, then you'll get a better menu of properties. But the one thing you want to be careful is, I know it sounds nice, not everyone wants to live on the beach. I understand that, but some of these rules are quite isolated and they haven't got the services. Sometimes the water is deposited water in a tank which is underground, so that can be a problem. They might not be connected to mains electricity, or it may not be connected all the time. Some properties I've looked at in the past here, they had light and electric and water, but when I looked into it, the water was deposited each month by a tanker in underground, so you weren't on the mains water supply. And the electricity, to be connected to the mains electricity, they had generators and stuff, and to connect some of these properties to mains electricity can be very expensive here in Spain. So something worth thinking about before you buy. If you're renting, it's a little bit different, I understand, but they haven't always got 100% internet or 100% electricity all of the time here, especially in the rural properties.
Out in the campo they call it, don't they? So I was going to ask that. It is a big question, country or city, and I've known. I had Chris a few weeks ago talking about it and saying that it's really better to be within 5 or 10 minutes of a motorway. You can still be out in the country, but it's a lot of people find out that they end up being 45 minutes, an hour away from the local shops if they've got to go down country roads, and they very soon find themselves isolated.
Yeah, I mean, when I first moved to Spain, I wanted a little bit of land with some olive trees, lemon trees, and all that, the typical British dream. And I went and looked, and I found the place inland. It was lovely, but it was about an hour from the beach. Very quiet, very very nice place, perfect, nice big bit of land. I had my own little English castle in the countryside, I suppose you could call it. But when I looked into it a bit more, I thought, well, we're 20 minutes drive from the local town, any shops and that, and in the winter it gets very cold, isolated, the roads might get flooded, and if one of us is ill, we can't drive, how do we get services? And what about when we're older, can we get to the drugstore to get medicines, and can we go to the doctors and stuff like that? So yeah, in the end, the country house that I wanted, it ended up being a place near the beach in quite a populated area. So yeah, it's something you really need to think about long term. And also the properties are cheaper inland, but they're always cheaper inland for a reason, and when you go to resell them, sometimes the property prices don't change much, whereas if you're in a more populated area, maybe you've got a more stable market. That's in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, it's good to know, and we've taken that advice, but we're moving near Comares, which is it's going to be fairly isolated and up in the hills north of Malaga. So that's going to be interesting, but we know it's not going to be the place we end up at, and that's the rental property. I think it's just a nice community around there for what we need. Yeah,
Malaga's lovely. I mean, the climate down there is pretty much like here in Almeria. It's very warm, very dry and sunny most of the year round. But and there's quite a lot of British moved into the hills there, and the hill-lined area. There's some beautiful properties there. But you really need to be, when you first move here, unless you're fluent in Spanish, then you need to be near people that can help you. You need to be near English-speaking doctors and services. Otherwise, you know, you are going to struggle big time, or you have to pay somebody to do all this help you when you first move here and things like that. So, you know, it sounds great living in the middle of nowhere and that, but and probably where you're going, you're going to be fairly near other British people, so you'll have that help. But Malaga is got a big expats community, so you should be fine there.
Yeah, well, it's only we're used to it being on. I mean, we're right on the bottom left-hand corner of Ireland at the moment, and we're used to taking an hour to get to the local main supermarket. And there are no cities in Kerry. It's all sort of towns. There are two big towns. So, and Malaga's going to be within 45 minutes at the very most. So that will seem like a luxury to us. But yeah, I can imagine a lot of people would find it quite remote. But there you go. We'll find out when we get there, and we'll see if we have to move somewhere else. So let's see if we've got any other questions from people. Yeah, from Cindy Brindley. Hello, Cindy. You watch us on a regular basis, so thank you for that. And she says, if you decide to rent your property out, what rights do landlords have if they need their renters to vacate? She says you hear of some harrowing stories in Europe where squatters seem to have more right than the landlord.
That's true, they do, yeah. I mean, the laws are pretty similar to that in the UK. You know, if you've got somebody squatting in your house, technically you have to. I mean, I've heard a few stories here, and a friend of mine had this problem, and he wanted to cut the electricity off to them, and they can't do that. You can't cut the electric off. You can't cut the water off, things like that. And the people were in there, they weren't paying the rent or anything, and he wanted to get them out. He called the police. The police just waved their hands at it. It's not their problem. You have to go through the courts, and this can take a long time. That's why you really need to make sure that you get these people vetted out. And some of these people renting, you can go to agents and you can specify that you want the type of person you want. You want working class people, you want people, you can even say you want like a doctor and nurses, you want a retired couple. You can actually specify the sort of people that you want in there. Two income families, things like that. So you've got to be very careful who you get and get these people vetted out. But the people that I had rent my place were local Spanish people. They seemed okay, they seemed nice people. I thought I met them in a cafe bar, checking them out, and they seemed okay. And then after a few months when they left, they just left, and they left the place in a bit of a mess, no damage or anything luckily, and I got my deposit back, but it was a worry. You know, when I got a phone call to check and to keep the deposit, and they'd gone and left the key inside and stuff, and it's like I rushed down there to see what damage we'd done. Luckily there was nothing, but it is you do hear these horror stories, but you need to get a solicitor and go through the procedures, and it can take months, even years. But personally I would say that's why, to try and avoid these, just do as many checks, or get the agent to do the checks on these people. And there are some agents now when you're renting that do a security deposit, so they negotiate this deposit, and if you put it up higher, have a high deposit, then if the people are less likely to pay it, it may be some idea that they're not really that serious about it. You can set your amount that you want on these deposits as well. So obviously, if you put in a higher amount, if the people are trustworthy and they'll pay the deposit. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do to help protect yourself before you even start renting it out.
Good stuff. Is it easier, do you think, to get a mortgage on a city house than somewhere out in the campo, in the country?
The thing is, with properties out in rural areas to buy, the main thing is, like I said, is the services connected, and all the permissions, the light, electricity, water, and that. I know people that have got mortgages on properties out. It probably is easier in cities, in rural areas where it's all connected to the main services properly. In, as they call it, in the campo, a lot of these properties have irrigation problems. Some of them only have water delivered, or they only have electricity delivered certain times of the day and things like that. So there can be less. There can be more risks, so there's more puts on more rules and regulations regarding the mortgage you have with them. But it really depends on how much deposit you're going to put down with the bank as to regards to the risk the bank's going to have. So the bigger deposit you put down, the more easy it is to get the mortgage through the bank.
Yeah. Okay then. So it's all about the risk to the bank, whether they find the properties in the country just because there's more rules.
The banks are like all banks anyway. They're a business. They're out to make as much money as they can out of you, and you need to use the banks to work for you. And the way I do that here, and I've bought, is like every 2 years or so, I change my bank. I always get mortgages on properties here, and whenever like at the moment, the house, we're just waiting for the final paperwork for the house here now. It's a 2-year build. And when we've got all the paperwork, although I'm fairly happy with my mortgage, I'm going to shop around, and if I get a better deal, I'm going to change the bank. And when I go to change the bank, I will look at the new bank and say, look, we've got this property, we want this, that, and the other mortgage, what can you do? And then I'll go back to my main bank and I shall tell the bank, look, I'm thinking of leaving. And they're going to try me if they move. Just go, that's what you have to do. You have to shop around. It's difficult, it can be a bit time consuming, but there are some good deals at the moment. And we did a check a little while ago actually to one of the banks here and asked what they could do just as an exploratory trip to the bank. And they said that if we change, they will be doing a deal on a car. They do renting now for cars, and they're giving us a really good deal if we change our mortgage with them, which will include a car. So obviously we're paying for that in the mortgage, but it's they call it a rental, and what it is you pay monthly for 4 years, and at the end of 4 years you start again with a new car, or you tear out the contract and you forget the car. But a lot of these banks are offering cars now as part of the mortgage deal, or through the bank you can buy cars. But so you need to shop around and see what offers they do, and play one off against the other. It's a game that a lot of the Spanish do, and they do it pretty well, and it's something I learned and that I'm now participating in. Anything to save money.
Great stuff. Is with the present situation with the lockdown, are many people visiting houses? Is it possible? I guess this is somebody, I don't know if they're from the UK or not. I don't think anybody can come in from the UK, or can they, to visit a property? Is that the rule?
Apparently, they don't still come here. I think it's the UK that's stopping you from travelling as much as Spain, and it's supposed to be essential travel. And it's all due to change this month. The beginning of May, the Spanish government are going to be changing the state of alarm. Hopefully that will be all ending very shortly and things will be back on track again. But I know a couple of estate agents here who I've become friendly with over the years, and they do virtual tours now where you can view the property online, and they get the owners to make walk-through videos of the properties and send them to the estate agents, and some of the estate agents themselves do these property virtual tours. You can even do live virtual tours with the estate agents walking around, and you can ask them to turn the camera on to the kitchen and things like that and see. So you can view a property now from anywhere in the world, and a lot of these estate agents are doing these virtual tours.
I think I'd prefer that to because some of the videos I watched, the camera sweeps around so quickly and you think, what's behind that door there? And you never quite catch, and you don't get an idea of the layout sometimes because they stop the video as they're starting to go up the stairs or something like that, and then suddenly you're in a bedroom and you don't know where you are. So it would be really good to have that kind of virtual tour where you can be speaking to the estate agent and point the camera down at the floor and get a bit close up on the window frames and things like that, just to, because I mean there's nothing like being there in real life, but at least you can get some close-ups if you've got somebody there that you can tell what to do.
Pedro is a really nice guy. He said the view, the apartment that he was selling here in near Amaria Airport was lovely. It was near the beach. It was fantastic, and when he was doing a virtual tour, the guy said to him, "Walk out onto the balcony. Now turn the camera to the right." And there was a great big building that was being built there with all the cranes and everything on it. The view was fantastic, but when you turn the camera to the right, you see this big building. And he said, "I felt really embarrassed for the owner because I had to turn the camera around to this big building that was obviously an eyesore, But yeah, that's something you can do with these virtual tours. You can ask them in real time to see the things that you really want to see, as you would if you was there. So, pretty good idea, I think.
I saw that on a program in the UK. they were showing an advert for a property, and it was a really cheap property, and out in on the northwest coast, and it was absolutely lovely. They showed a picture of this beautiful cottage, mountains behind it, and everything, and then they showed the property from the back, and it was next to Windscale nuclear power plant. It's just kind of dominated the scenery from the front window. So yeah, it can be quite like that. Talking about having things nearby that may ruin a property. There's buying a property near a military base. Now there is this rule, I think, that, and it's especially near Alicante, because there's a military base around there, and you have to apply. There's this old rule from during Franco's time that meant that if you wanted to buy a property near a military base, if you were a foreigner, then you had to apply to the military, and it takes a long time to do that, and that rule still applies. And because, of course, British people are no longer part of the EU, who are moving in there now, this rule has now come up for British people. So I don't know if you've heard about that. You said you're quite near a military base.
Yeah, I've heard of this as well, and from what I can gather is that they do the checks on you. They do background checks on you to see that you'll know affiliate terrorist groups and things like that, and what sort of background you've got. It's quite a straightforward background check as far as I've been informed. But the other thing is as well that some of these areas, like for example in Almeria International Airport, just 5 minutes from where I live, there is a big military base here, and although the airport is an international airport, everybody uses it. It is owned by the military here, and they have rights and permissions to come and go as they please, and some of their military planes come in and do testing and stuff, and they do on a Sunday sometimes they do touch and go landings for practicing and things like that. It's not a problem because we don't hear it, but sometimes we see a Hercules flying over, and it flies over 10 or 12 times in the same path, and you think, what's going on? Are we being invaded? But and there are some areas here where the land that they use, the military is got held, the actual land is owned by the military. So these people who bought the property, it's a bit like a lease thing. I think they have like 99 years on the property, so it's something you need to check when you buy the property. The area here, I haven't heard of the military doing checks on the people that have bought the property, but they're more concerned about the actual the land will always belong to the military. So even though you bought the house, it's a bit like I think it's a bit like in the UK where you buy a property and you have a 99-year lease, it's yours, and then at the end of the 99 years it's back to the land. So something you need to check with your solicitor here when you're buying property here, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good piece of advice. Let's see. Well, we've been going now for nearly 40 minutes, so we should wind it up. Let's have one final question then. What do you think's going to happen to the property market over the next year or two? What's your opinion?
Well, actually, people are saying that it's killed it, the market, the British not being able to come here and things like that. But we all know the British are itching to get on that plane to come here, and as soon as rules and regulations are relaxed, it will be. It's just a matter of time, and I'm sure we're going to see lots of British people coming back here. And I know lots of people in the building business here, the building trade and architects and stuff like that, and they're all so busy, and all the tradespeople here are busy. And I read yesterday that property prices here in Spain and in some of the Canary Islands are actually increased a little bit. And it's mostly the bigger properties. People are tending to buy properties with gardens and a swimming pool and bits of land and stuff like that. Also, remember that with you buy property, it's valued over 500,000 to the golden visa now to get into Spain, so for the residency. So not everybody can buy a property that's valued at 500,000, I know, but this is going to make that property price range more attractive to people that are buying here, because obviously it's going to include them getting a residency a lot easier than the things have been after Brexit. So, but yeah, I don't think that, we had the slumps up and down here over the years, as everybody does, and all the whole world are having property problems at the moment. But here in Spain, there is loads of building work still going on here. There's loads of property being built.
Uh-huh.
and lots of apartments everywhere. It's just a matter of time, and you've got to think of the long-term investment. And I think if you're buying property in Spain long-term, as long as you're buying the right area, of course, I don't think you're going to lose out long-term.
No, that's true. I mean, property is something. If you're going to be buying and living there for the rest of your life, then you don't have any worries because property just does gradually go up over a long period of time. And the only problems you have is if you buy with a big mortgage in the middle of a peak, and then the property price drops, and then you're going to have negative equity. But if you're living there for the next 20 years, you're not worried about that because you don't want to sell the property. But if you're doing it as an investment, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I had my property, had to have my property valued. The house it's almost finished, but some things to do in the garden and bits and pieces to do decorating wise. But we had to have a valuation from the bank when we bought the land, and then when we started the house build, and then at the finish to get the final paperwork, we have to have a bank valuation, and they valued it at 680,000 as it stands now. So we're more than happy with that as a valuation. And my estate agent friend has been and looked around and said that's a very underestimated valuation for the value for the bank, and the estate agent said it could put another 100,000 on top of that. So that's at the time at the moment. So yeah, I mean, bigger houses, properties with a bit of land and a swimming pool will go up more obviously than apartments. But a friend of mine bought an apartment here a little while ago, got his residency, NIE number and everything correct, and when I bought a property that he'd looked at 5 years ago, and the property has gone up quite a bit, but he still loves it, still loves the area, and he's paid the extra. So I personally don't see things as people are saying it's slumped and it's affecting the market here. I haven't seen it personally, and there's lots of building work here, obviously depending on the area, but in Almeria, in the touristy areas, in the beachfront areas, and property is still holding its own. So yeah, I think when the floodgates open, which they will do for the Brits coming here, people are going to start buying again for sure.
Yeah, it's true. I know property in the UK is kind of held during the lockdown because there are so many people backlogged who are trying to buy houses, and I think that's kind of holding it. It's holding it in Spain as well. So who knows what will happen when the floodgates open? There's going to be an increased supply, and there's going to be increased demand. So that might knock the property prices up. But then what's going to happen when the economic fallout of the lockdown happens? Who knows? I don't think anybody can predict it accurately at the moment because we haven't had this kind of pandemic and this kind of situation before.
It's also, I mean, no one knows, as you say, with the restrictions and the virus, how this is going to affect things. But people still need to move, crisis or no crisis. People still move. They still want to better themselves. They still want to get a bigger property. They might have more kids, and they might have a bit more money or less money. So they want to move, whether it's downsizing or going bigger. People still, the market is still there, and the population of the world is still growing, and so property is always gone up and down, but it will inevitably go up, slowly increase. And here in Spain, I think with the UK market specifically, British people are fed up with things in the UK as they are everywhere, but they want to get away, they want a change of life. And so these are the floodgates that British people coming over here, and you don't even have to have residency. You can still buy property and come here for the 90-day rule and visit your property 3 months at a time. So those holiday makers that want to come and buy a property here to come and enjoy, they can still do that. And all you need is an NIE number and a passport. So you don't have to be resident here to buy in Spain. So there is still that market. It's just that at the moment it's all on hold, and who knows what happens in the future. But personally, I think it will start to pick up again soon. People are going to come here. They've always come to Spain. They always love coming to Spain, and that's anytime soon.
It's true. And of course, there are many other nationalities who buy in Spain. There are lots of Germans and Scandinavians and people from all over the world. So lots of Romanians. Apparently, there are more Romanians in Spain than any other foreign nationality outside of Spanish people.
A lot of Russian money as well. I see a lot of Russian people moving here now, and the last couple of years in some of the local towns that I go to, I've come to meet, I know quite a few people here, and they're saying to me that, you know, the Russians are bought there, Russian bought there, and the Russian communities, so I don't know what's going on in Russia, but they seem to have a lot more money now than, or maybe it's just the rich Russians, but yeah, quite a lot of Russian families moving here now.
Yeah, it always seems very
And they've
cosmopolitan.
learned Spanish fast, the Russian people. I know someone that has been here only a few months and they speak almost fluent Spanish, and incredible how some of these people pick it up so fast.
Yeah,
Us British are a bit slower, I think.
yeah, I think so. We're used to shouting loudly and expecting to get what we want.
Yeah,
That's
true.
yeah, that's right. Well, I think that's enough for one video. It's 45 minutes is enough for people to watch, I think, unless there are any more questions on the chat, which I can't see. So anyone who has any more questions, please ask on the comments below and we'll get you some answers. And don't forget to visit BritishExpatsInSpain.com and LivingInSpainBooks.com. Those are both David's sites. And so I'll let you go now and enjoy the Almeria sunshine. It's beautiful here too. And it's once again, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for giving up your time and expertise.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been nice to be on the show. Hope people have got some valuable tips from it. Speak soon.
Yeah,
mate.
absolutely.
Cheers.
Everybody give a click on the like button if you've liked what you hear. And if you don't, then don't. Thanks very much, David. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
So, next week on U2 Spain, we are back with Chris from Upsticks, our resident expert, live from Malaga, with more up-to-date information about visas and residency and more. That's next Saturday at the usual time of 9:30 if you're in the UK or Ireland, 10:30 if you're in Spain. And don't forget to check out the Liz and Skatz channel. We broadcast live on Wednesday evenings about health and weight loss and our journey to move to Spain, which has moved on a notch because I have finally acquired Irish citizenship. So we'll be celebrating that next Wednesday. And there's also U2 Yoga, as you've seen in the chat there. That's Liz's own channel where you can have free yoga and meditation classes on video there, and also U2 Aromatherapy, that's another of Liz's channels. And of course we have t-shirts for all of those channels on our merchandise page, as I showed you this one earlier, the U2 Spain ones. They're actually really good quality, so check all those links out in the description below. So that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in, and please don't forget to click on the like button, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to the channel and click on the little bell ting so that you can get notifications whenever we go online. And I will see you soon. Peace and love. Take care of yourselves, and go out and get some sunshine. Bye.